We'll begin with मीर sir's experience and जो कुछ हमें questions है regarding career या फिर illustration oriented career जो है वो definitely we'll try to answer it. So Mihir sir, can we begin?
Yeah, sure. Let's straight away get to the questions also. I don't mind.
Okay, definitely. What we can do, can you please share your some work so at least audience को एक feel आ जाएगा.
Mm. Yeah, no problem. Just a moment.
So can we begin with this screen, Mir? Is it okay?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So basically, it is just these few set of JPEGs that I've put in the first folder. They're like the different types of works that I've done so far. Some of the works that I've done so far. So here, what we are seeing is, I think this should probably be. This must be the first illustrated project that I did for Setu advertising. एंड आई थिंक इस पे भी मैंने और आनंद ने एक्चुअली बाद में काम किया था फॉर एनिमेटिक्स सो दिस वाज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग एंड दिस वाज फॉर अ दिवाली फेस्ट व्हिच यूज्ड टू बी ऑर्गेनाइज्ड बाय सकाड एंड उसका थीम ऐसे था कि द होल शॉपिंग फेस्टिवल जो उनका रहता है दिवाली फेस्ट का so we made it we sort of transformed it into a circus so that थोड़ा सा उसमें interesting element आ जाए. So I think there are few more from the same campaign. Yeah, so these are just a few visuals. So the humor in this was basically it was all set around how a person goes to shopping and how it can be a circus and how you can win prizes. So it was a very different concept to work on, and a lot of planning went on into it. And this is what we had come up with. So you might see a few dialogues over there. That was also a creative call which was taken later on because to add in a bit more humor in the normal मराठी में उसके कैरेक्टर्स के बीच में डायलॉग्स लिए थे जिससे थोड़ा सा ह्यूमर और बढ़ेगा. सो दिस वाज वन कैंपेन. अगर उस पर थोड़ा सा अगर हमको फोकस करना है तो एज इन द मेकिंग पार्ट तो यू कैन सी कि whenever you make a character तो उसमें कैसे what you're supposed to do is you try in different expressions of the character till you feel that this is the one that perfectly suits the story that we are saying. So in the first one which Anand is pointing out right now, you can see there is a set of three different expressions that I had initially thought of for the character of the woman. So based on all these sketches, in the end, it was decided that we'll go with the third one because it suited the whole story more. So that is one thing that I wanted to point out. Next. Yeah, so this is just basically the initial drawing phase of the whole setup of the illustration. So what you see below is the drawing, and what you get after you've colored it at the top. Okay, so this is something which was done for Rubicon Communications Chennai. The concept was very interesting. See, basically, it's a fruit shop on a street in Chennai, and the concept was that the fruits that come to our store, uh, there we pick only the best fruits available uh, wherever in the farms and everything. So the title of this particular campaign was "Only the Chubbiest." So because they wanted to relate it with how people always want big fruits, round, nice plum fruits. So that was the idea behind this. So personifying these fruits into a character, and then just basically showing hands of people giving a pinch to their cheek was the concept behind the whole thing. So this campaign is called Only the Chubbiest. So basically only the chubbiest fruits are picked, and those are what we sell in our fruit shop. So this is the first of the three visuals, and there's one more. This is for the mango fruit. This is the second one. So all these three visuals, if you see, the concept remains the same. It's basically one hand pinching the cheeks of these fruits, which are turned into cute characters. So that was used to convey the message which the fruit shop was trying to convey. Okay, so here these happen to be a set of a few illustrations which I did for Ruskin Bond's book called Cricket for the Crocodile. So initially, when you just look at this, you might see that there is a lot of empty space in this. So one might wonder why is there so much of an empty space. But the thing is that since these are book illustrations, this empty space has been kept for the text that is supposed to come here. So over here, I think the scene was something like how the kids used to gather and with their cricket bats and ball and stumps and everything, and they would get on their bicycles and literally very fast they would go to they would just be waiting to go out and play. So this is one scene from one of the double spreads of the book. Then there's more. Yeah, so as I said, the book is called Cricket for the Crocodile, and the story is very interesting. What happens is that these bunch of kids, they are playing a cricket, they are playing a game of cricket, and somebody hits the ball, and then it goes into the nearby lake, where there is this crocodile, and how the crocodile gets irritated with all these games by the boys and everything. That is what the story is all about. So this is actually this illustration comes pretty much at the end. So there are a lot of things happening here. There is this bed that somebody gets and keeps near the playground where these kids are playing, and then the crocodile comes up and he decides to take a nap under the bed, and how it gets stuck. And then the ending of the story is pretty much like how the bed just gets stuck around the crocodile for the rest of its life. So this is after the crocodile has gone back into the lake. So it's like a top angle shot, which I felt. So why I picked this angle was that it is very easy to show these two three things happening together. As in this comes towards the end of the book, and what needed to be shown was one, the crocodile is back in its lake, and the second is that how it is stuck to that the rural kind of a bed that we have. So to show all these two three things, I felt that it will be very nice to show a top angle so that it is easy for me to incorporate all of these things that are given in the text, as in the story. Next, please. Yeah, so this is just before that one. uh, it has come there to nap under the bed, and the person is there is actually a person sleeping on the bed, and you know how even the crocodile dozes off, it sleeps, the man is also sleeping, and then when these kids are playing, a ball comes and hits the crocodile really hard on the face, and these both wake up, and the crocodile realizes that it really needs to get back into the lake, so it just, in whatever position it is, it just starts moving. So
Wow.
this is the illustration done for that. This is when it's headed towards the lake. So this again, this is just another scene where actually it's a group of boys, and then you might have seen sometimes in there are these certain uncles in the neighborhood, like they really want to join the boys and play with them, and also there is this one uncle who like really wants to join in. Nobody wants him to play actually, but then he still joins the team. And this is just a scene where how he gets bowled literally on the first ball, and that.
या आई थिंक किड्स इसको बहुत कनेक्ट कर लेंगे जो अभी
Ah,
स्टैंडर्ड में नाइन्थ स्टैंडर्ड में वो
yeah,
या
right. This is one more where there was a description where how when these kids went out to play, they used to always carry a lot of snacks. Everybody, suppose there are 10 boys who've gone to play, everybody would bring something from their own home. So this is just a illustration to depict that. So what you might observe overall in all of these is that in a story, there are many things that are written and many things are described. So it is very important to pick certain parts of the story to illustrate which show very different aspects of the story. Like there might be one thing which is going on repetitively in the story, and there might be these other things that they're just like there for support. So you can't just keep showing now for like the entire book. I can't just keep showing the crocodile and how the boys are playing and stuff like that. So you have to be very careful while planning the illustrations for a storybook. You have to figure out what part needs to be illustrated, and you can't just keep human figures in every illustration. You want that sort of a variety. So like in the earlier illustration, it was I had focused more on how the snacks were brought by the kids and all that. So just try to observe how there is a variety of situations that are picked to be illustrated. So this is where the toss happens, and what I initially thought was that we are always used to seeing while when there are cricket matches, even on TV, we are used to seeing the captain stand in front of each other, and one person does the toss. Here, what I felt was, I could play a little bit with the angle. Maybe we could go with the top angle, where the coin is coming more towards us, and we can see these boys standing in front of each other. Because obviously, every illustration on every page, it needs some space where the text is going to come. So
Right.
this is how I had planned it, and I felt that this angle would be very appropriate to depict the toss. So
Yeah, I think these kind of different treatments of camera angle, it's
yeah,
also
yeah.
kept engaging, right?
Yeah, it is very crucial. I mean, if you just keep doing the same sort of angle and same sort of depictions, it more or less, starts getting a little boring, I feel. So, you always want to keep the reader, constantly engaged on, what is going to come next. And at the same time, it lets you play with the entire surface of the book. As in, when you open up the book, you have two pages in front of you, so
Right.
you're able to use the whole area very smartly.
Hmm.
So maybe it might just be one illustration as it is over here. So what's happening here is there is an illustration or a major chunk of the illustration on the extreme left and on the extreme right. So automatically you get space in between as well to put all the text and everything. So you get to play around a lot when you play around with angles while depicting anything. So it's fun, and I think one should really pay attention to this so that there's a lot of variety while seeing any book for the viewer.
Hmm.
Yeah. So again, this is the same example, of the same thing actually. This is where one of the characters, who's the main character of the book, uh, he is basically calling all his friends who are just cooling off in another lake, and he's just telling them, "Ki, "Arey, we should just get to the cricket practice. What are you guys doing? We should go." So that is what he's trying to tell them. So over here, you can see that what I've done is the composition is in such a way that there is something on the top left corner and there is something happening on the top, sorry, bottom right corner. So it sort of envelops the whole text when it comes in between. So you get the whole space to work with, and then rather than just one part of the double spread being interesting, the whole set becomes very interesting to look at.
Yeah. So I found few more very interesting stuffs over here. So
Mhm.
can you please throw some light on these.
Yeah,
Actually, the style is entirely different. Once
true.
the campaign of chubby fruits.
Correct.
Now we
Correct.
are definitely. Mayor, please continue.
Yeah, so I think what Anand was pointing out here was that in overall, in whatever JPEGs that we saw up till now, what Anand was pointing out was that there is a lot of difference in the styles that we have, I have worked in. So that is one thing that I would really like to point out. See, basically what happened was that whenever I when I decided to go for illustration and to really, sort of make it my career. Or even when I was in college, I used to observe a lot of things. And see, when you're in fine art, maybe you have to sort of, you have to be a little more stringent with, sort of sticking to one style, because then it becomes your identity. So it is very important from a fine art perspective. But in the case of commercial art, when you're making illustrations for a specific subject, then be it advertising, or be it like a book, or be it maybe some sort of posts for social media or something like that, you have a specific brief and you have a specific target audience for that. So I have always kept in mind that I am always going to be someone who's going to be very versatile in the approach towards illustration. I really didn't ever want to stick with just one style. So there might be one style which is a very favorite of mine, but at the same time, for me, I think it is very important for an illustrator to be able to work in a lot of different styles, because what happens is that then you're able to cater to a larger number of audience. Like for example, over here, the illustration that we're seeing here, this is for a children's book. So for a children's book, which is like for really small kids, so, automatically the characters are that way. The colors are more vibrant, and they're made in a way that they look more, comical and very adorable and that sort of a thing. So the style here is again very different from what you do for, say, a Ruskin-born book, which is for a little grown-up kids, we can say, or maybe for an advertising campaign where sometimes you want to have something funny, but at the same time, if you make it in a very realistic way, it is more appealing to the overall target audience. So I think that is what Anand you were trying to point out, right? Yeah, so this is these few illustrations from here on, they're just a continuation of the same book. This is from the book Milk Mustache. It's been written by Vikas Khanna, Chef Vikas Khanna. This is his second book, children's book. So yeah, so this book was something which there are books which have a lot of text, as in a lot of story, as in the written form, and then there are one or two illustrations in between, and automatically when it's a book for kids, it is sometimes more of the illustration part and the text part reduces drastically. So this particular book is in a format where each and every page of the book had an illustration. So it was basically the illustration carrying the whole story, and literally the story part or the text part was just one line on each page. So, for example, in this particular page, I think the line was something like every morning the kids would tumble out of their beds, yawning, something like that. So, that was just one line, that one line and this illustration. So, this was one entire page of that book. So, all the pages have a big edge to edge illustration with just one line of the story. We can see the others also. And yeah, so early in the morning, the little girl's father, he's a milkman basically. So this is just how he used to, with his milk pails, he used to set off to deliver milk to all the houses. So this is that illustration. Again, this just had one line.
Hmm.
All these pages had just one line, single line of the whole story. This is where how she would gather with all her friends. These are the four characters from the book actually. The cow, Kali, then there was a Rang, I think was the name of the butterfly, and Sur is the name of the bird over there. So these four are friends, and how they used to, come together, and then they used to go to the lake and all that. That's what the story is.
Yeah. Another thing I want to I'm going to request you about to talk about your advertising work also,
Yeah.
advertising illustration also.
I think there should be some of the references in the later part.
Yeah.
But anyway, so just to speak something about advertising in general, which comes like very prominently is that the biggest difference between books and advertising is that uh, books is basically it is like a sequential part. There's going to be a story. You're going to have pretty much a lot of room to really show the story in a lot of in multiple illustrations basically. Whereas in advertising, the thing is that the brief is clear, what you want to tell the audience is very clear, and you have just this one single image. As in, you might obviously in a campaign, you might have three images to work on.
It's
But
11 o'clock.
Sorry. Yeah.
huh, yeah, so the thing with advertising is that there's just one single image, one single shot that you have to work with to show your entire message, whatever is going on, and that is all you get to really convey the message. So this was done for these two illustrations were done for a brand called Neel Kamal. You guys might have heard of it. Neel Kamal mattress actually. And the entire concept was such that we have a lot of disturbances going on as we wake up. There's everything, as in basically life happens when after you wake up, you go to office, or whatever, as in you work, or there are a lot of disturbances going on throughout the day. So this was just to show how a good night's sleep can keep all of these disturbances at bay. So you might have a very troublesome, chaotic, and a very tedious and a problematic day, but at night, once you come to really take rest, and when you are in your bed in the Nilkamal mattress, you literally forget all of these disturbances, and somehow that is the time when they really can't get to you. So a good night's sleep is it's totally your time, and nothing else can disturb you. So this was the overall concept for the two of these images. So automatically we had figured out two characters. One was the husband and one was the wife. So we just had to figure out what would be a set of disturbances that a normal working husband would have, and the second for the wife was similarly in the same fashion, as in what the disturbances could be for a normal either housewife or even a working lady, or whichever way. So you can see that there is a husband who can't in the wife's illustration. You can see that there is a husband who can't do things on his own, who constantly needs her help, and then there is there's presumably her daughter who's asking her whether I should wear this, and it's hard for the mother to really let her wear something which is so short. And then there is a crying baby, there is a flower vase falling, then there is a maid who is suggesting through her body language and with a calendar at near her head that she's saying that I am not going to be able to come for 4 days, so 4 दिन की छुट्टी चाहिए type of a thing. Then there is a milkman who is adding water to the milk. So these are few of the worries that a person would have normally during the day. And then there is also there is a mother-in-law who's just, maybe it's like what, 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, and who's just with her puja and everything, she's being very loud and trying to irritate the daughter-in-law. So these are all the things that make up the whole concept of this illustration, and the next one as well. So
Wow.
if you will observe, there was this one message that needed to go across, and there were just these two images that they need to have all of it to really express what the campaign is trying to tell you. So that is one very important thing with advertising.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks, Mir, for this sharing work with me and to audience also. So इससे रिलेटेड कुछ क्वेश्चंस ऑलरेडी ऑडियंस से के थ्रू आए हैं.
I have
So first question is, what will be the future in of illustration in India? So what do you think? Can you give the answer, please?
See, the thing is that illustration ultimately, or any art form, is basically just it's a medium for expression. As in, there is, we all know that there is photography, there is fine art, there is other things like dance and everything. So the thing with illustration being an art form, it is something which it is irreplaceable. It is always going to be there. Maybe the format might change, as in, if you observe in the past 10 years or even 20 years, uh, illustration is being used in more and more areas and more fields, compared to what it used to be like way before, because there is a lot of advancement in technology, and a lot of different type of content is coming up for people right now. Like for example, now if you observe, there's this company called Industrial Light and Magic,
Mm-hmm.
which has done a lot of work for, I think, Star Wars, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Anand? I think Star Wars only.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So these people, whenever they made films, there used to be shots where there's a huge landscape at the back, and there is just one or two characters in the front who are doing something. And these backgrounds at the back used to be imaginary, because the whole setup of the story was like that. Like it could be happening on Mars or some other completely different imaginary planet or something like that. So the restrictions that those people had at that point of time, like many years ago, was that they weren't able to generate all these things digitally. So
Mm-hmm.
they use traditional medium of illustration, or painting, in a way that the background used to be actually painted. And if you Google it up sometime, it is called matte painting, which now again it has become digital, because there's a pen tablet, and there's a computer, and you can do it much easily right now. So even in films, something like fine art and illustration is used. Even for a movie, if it's not in like a matte painting or a background thing, even the designing of the characters needs illustration, the concept art needs illustration, whether it is for gaming, whether it is for films. Then again, always there's always going to be books. Their format might change or not change, we really don't know. But books are always going to be there. And if you ask me, even though there are new mediums like Kindle and everything, where people are able to look at books on a screen, I don't think that a proper actual book with paper pages is something which is going to go away. So anyway, whatever the medium, illustration again, even for books, is always going to be there. So visual storytelling is going to be there, and accordingly, illustration is also going to be there, because we all need visuals in our life. I mean, we can't just keep reading things. So as long as that is there, illustration in its very different ways, it's always going to be there. And with the new avenues coming up, I think it is going to be extremely interesting. With how it's going to be very interesting how this industry will really shapes up. So I think, if you, in general, if you ask me, the future of illustration, I think it is very bright, and there are going to be even more ways where an illustration, or a painting or something like that, or let's call them visuals, that are going to be applied to tell your story.
Yep, absolutely right, Mir, very well said. And to just adding a few lines in his statement, these things are very well connected. Means if you go for illustration, if you go for storyboarding, if you go for animation, if
Correct.
you go for matte painting, the base
Absolutely.
is the same. Means drawing का अच्छा base, designing का अच्छा base, creative sense, that should be there. And at the end, most important part, your interest and patience. That
Yeah.
is the most important thing.
Totally. What I think what you added, Anand, is extremely valid. I mean, I just looked at one or two points maybe, but even these pre-production parts where there is, like how you mentioned, Anand, about storyboarding. Now, storyboarding is something which that illustration might not always reach the public, as in people are not always going to see that, or even if with concept art or character design, as in the pre-production stage of anything. But it is extremely important because that is going to set up everything, which comes later on.
Another question related this: which field of designing is more stable in India? Here, my just few inputs. See, designing is a very broad word. Okay, so and एज मेयर मेंशन कि ये डेली नए नए कुछ ना कुछ अपडेट्स नए नए इन्वेंशंस न्यू न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज कमिंग एंड गोइंग आल्सो ओके सो दैट पॉइंट इज एंड आई थिंक ये क्वेश्चन शायद पेरेंट्स ने रेज किया है अनफॉर्चुनेटली अभी मैंने उनके नाम्स ऐसे सॉर्ट आउट नहीं किए बट ये पेरेंट्स का क्वेश्चन है सो सो फॉर दैट अगेन एज आई मेंशन कि बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स को मैंने खुद ऐसे देखा है कि जब मैं टीचिंग के मोड में रहता हूँ सो सर अगर मैं ये करूंगा तो मुझे 2 साल में जॉब मिल जाएगा क्या या फिर 4 साल में जॉब मिल जाएगा क्या in my opinion कि this industries अगर आपका काम अच्छा है if your work your thought process if it's quite creative तो it's very easy to switch here and there means stream wise या फिर market की जैसे requirement है and ये personally मेरा experience है कि मैंने मेरा career start किया character animation से I have my strong background of drawing या फिर उसकी practice थी then I moved to digital animation then I moved to VFX then I moved to motion graphics now खुद की कंपनी रन कर रहा हूँ and illustration थोड़े बहुत करता हूँ so
Right.
in
Just to interject here, I'd like to point out, Anand, what you said is very important. Basically, what you did was you adapted according to, what was new. And you knew that, a person who has the talent and the skills needs to be very flexible. So I think that is something which you focused on and you were actually able to do that. Like when you mentioned right now that you started off with character design and then, then slowly other things started coming in. So I think what you're saying is really nice, and it sheds a lot of light on how a person needs to be very flexible, adaptable when you really want to be in this industry. So I think I just wanted to say that it's a really nice point that you mentioned right now, and it's very important as well.
thanks. Another question how can I further pursue in my career for character design and animation so again it's the same based thing कि go for ये again student का question लग रहा है कि go for fine art first have good command या फिर एक अच्छा एजुकेशन ड्राइंग का करने के बाद या फिर एनिमेशन का इफ यू आर सो फोकस्ड ऑन कैरेक्टर डिजाइनिंग एंड एनिमेशन have a good knowledge of drawing and the process animation की process कैसी है and that is the first step and for this is my personal opinion after that क्योंकि मैंने बहुत सारे students को ऐसे देखा है means when they came for 4th year they are thinking about starting their own venture okay so my personal approach or personal opinion is don't do that at least spend 3-4 years minimum in industry do कहीं पे जॉब करो सो कॉलेज में सिखाया जाता है ऑफकोर्स एकेडमिकली इट्स रिक्वायर्ड एंड इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग लेकिन मार्केट का एक्सपीरियंस इज कम्प्लीटली टोटली डिफरेंट ओके एंड इन एकेडमिक्स ऑल्सो इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू कवर दैट एस्पेक्ट क्योंकि यही इतना बहुत बड़ा सेगमेंट होता है सो दैट इज माई रिक्वेस्ट और दैट इज माई पर्सनल सजेशन the next question is okay can I opt design as a side skill and then make it a career so Mihir, what is your opinion on this
Uh, can you repeat it once, please? Just
yeah. Can I opt designing as a side skill and then make it a career
Um, the question is a little bit vague, but I'll just try to explain whatever I understood from it. See, basically, I think it is very important for a person to really know what they want to do. See, it might not be the exact thing that you might pick from a certain industry. For example, like some person who's, say, in 10th standard or who has completed their basic higher education or 12th or whatever. See, so they might have an idea that animation is something which is very interesting, and I would like to. They might have a very broad, wish about their career. Like maybe they just they feel like they want to make an animated film. I want to make animated films. So that is a very broad thing to want, uh, which is okay. And what happens is that when once you actually get into the whole system of learning everything, there's always a possibility that you might deviate a little. You might stay in the same field, but you might deviate a little, because what happens is that you start figuring out which aspect of making an animated film, for example, is more interesting to me. And what I really want to do is this particular thing out of the whole lot of things that can be done. So it is better that you are focused on design when you want to really make it your career. See, if you want to make design in your career, it has to be your aim. So having it as a side thing going on is okay. See, if you're planning to do something where I want to after a few years I want to get into designing, but initially it's going to be a little problematic, say, or I need to figure out, or I need to get more industry experience, and maybe I'm not going to get that kind of design experience immediately, because it's not always very easy to sort of figure out what kind of a stream you want to get in. So I think it is okay for a thought to let something like designing be in your mind to make it your career, but then at the same time, even if you're doing something else along with it, you need to know that for sure in a few years you're going to actually switch to designing. Only then you will do that designing part, even if it is like a side thing. You'll always do it very seriously, and you'll actually, for whatever amount of years you're doing it as a side job or side interest or whatever, you will actually be observing the current design trends and all these things that are going on in the industry right now. So you have to be very serious that there can be circumstances where you can't really immediately just get into designing. For there could be many reasons for that. So that is okay, but I think it is very important to be focused so that you're able to take it very seriously, and then you actually, after a few years or whatever, then you must make sure that you're actually going to get into designing. Otherwise, then you're just playing around with both the streams that you have taken up. Then ऐसा हो जाएगा कि डिजाइन का भी कुछ आगे जाके यूज नहीं हुआ, और दूसरा जो आप चीज कर रहे थे उसका भी फिर कुछ मतलब कुछ फायदा ही नहीं हो रहा है, ऐसे हो जाएगा. So it is good to be focused. That's what I'll overall say. And then you wanna add something to this?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, अगर आप कंफ्यूज हो कि दिस और दैट स्ट्रीम में भी बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स का भी ऐसा ये होता है कि इन द फैमिली द एंटायर फैमिली इज इन लाइक इंजीनियर्स डॉक्टर्स काइंड ऑफ थिंग एंड उनका लड़का लड़की सडनली कहता है कि नो आई वांट टू गो इन क्रिएटिव डिजाइनिंग दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग सो
Mm-hmm.
देयर आर सम ऑप्शंस लाइक एप्टीट्यूड टेस्ट सो दैट इज अगेन हाईली रिकमेंडेबल फ्रॉम माय साइड बिकॉज वहाँ पे आपको उस एप्टीट्यूड टेस्ट में वो प्रॉपर साइकोलॉजिस्ट रहते हैं सो टेक देयर सजेशंस स्मॉल सिंपल टेस्ट रहती है सो फ्रॉम दैट आल्सो यू कैन गेट एन आपका अप्रोच कहाँ पे एंड इट इज वेरी रिस्की कि अच्छा भाई मैंने बीकॉम किया अब जॉब नहीं मिल रहा है सो देन लेट्स एक्सप्लोर फॉर डिजाइनिंग मैं ओवरऑल डिजाइनिंग की बात कर रहा हूँ देन इट्स अ वेरी रिस्की थिंग एज मीर मेंशन
Mm-hmm.
यू नीड टू बी लिटिल केयरफुल ये फील्ड बिल्कुल भी ऐसा नहीं है कि चलो कुछ नहीं हुआ तो एनिमेशन कर लो, बिकॉज
correct.
मेनी इंस्टीट्यूट जो प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूट है वो ऐसे भी पोर्ट्रे करते हैं. अनफॉर्चुनेटली इट्स अ सैड थिंग बट इट्स ट्रू कि अगर सॉफ्टवेयर आ गया तो आपको पूरा आ जाएगा एनिमेशन. एनिमेशन के या फिर वीएफएक्स के बारे में वो ज्यादा होता है. बट स्टिल फॉर इलस्ट्रेशन, कोर इलस्ट्रेशन के लिए तो यू नीड अ ड्राइंग, देयर इज नो अल्टरनेटिव. बट फॉर डिजाइनिंग ऑल्सो क्रिएटिव सेंस इज क्वाइट इम्पोर्टेंट.
Mm-hmm.
So, another question in chat box. So my daughter is in 10th grade. So yeah, after 10th, 2 years are really helpful for kids because I strongly recommend that because एक तो first maturity level that is उनके अलग तरीके से डेवलप होती है. दैट इज फर्स्ट थिंग. दे कैन एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड उनका इंटरेस्ट कहाँ पे है. क्योंकि टेंथ के पहले बहुत सारे इन्फ्लुएंस उन पे रहते हैं. उनका फ्रेंड यहाँ पे गया होता है, उनके रिलेटिव्स कुछ रहते हैं, उसने वो किया इसके वजह से मैं ये करूंगी करूंगा, दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग. आई टेल आई जस्ट वांट टू क्विकली शेयर अ फनी इंसिडेंट्स. मेरी एक स्टूडेंट थी, शी जस्ट इन 9th स्टैंडर्ड. अभी उसने 10th कंप्लीट किया एंड शी वांट टू गो एनआईडी. मैंने फिर उसको पूछा कि तू क्यों जाना चाहती है. नो, आई वांट टू डू प्रोडक्ट डिजाइनिंग ओवर देयर. ओके, गुड. व्हाट इज प्रोडक्ट डिजाइनिंग? डू यू नो एनीथिंग अबाउट इट? And she's completely blank. She's no. So that is the thing. So that's why uh, kids require that space. Okay, so उनका decision होने के लिए. And another thing, as I mentioned earlier कि technology हर बार नए नए openings हो रहे हैं, नए नए field streams open हो रहे हैं. So you will get also get that chance to explore that thing. So that 2 years are it's really crucial. I highly recommend that after instead of after 10th you go after 12th for these kind of streams. If you are quite confident, go ahead. But still you are not so sure, then take those 2 years. The next question is in chat box. Is his job oriented field and self employed. So ये दोनों भी तरीके का फील्ड हो सकता है. जॉब में भी हो सकता है एंड सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड भी हो सकता है. सो राइट नाउ मेरी खुद की कंपनी है. फ्रॉम 2012 आई एम रनिंग माय ओन स्टूडियो. एंड मिहिर, व्हाट अबाउट यू? यू ओनली टेल.
Yeah, so the thing is that initially, just like how Anand mentioned right now, the way I was, planning to go about with illustration and things related to it is that exactly what Anand said right now. Initially, when you really want to sort of get a hang of things, you want to understand the industry first. What I did was because I am a commercial artist, as in I've done my graduation in advertising. It was very natural for me to first get into an ad agency, understand what is going on, what the market really is, where you can, really be creative, where you can't be creative, and what the people, as in the audiences or consumers or customers really want. So it was very important to understand the field first. So to put it shortly, what I had in mind was that I'll start off with advertising because advertising is, it's I think it's a very complete profession. I'm sure Anand you'll agree because you can really do a lot of things. It is print media is involved. There are even the audio visual is involved. So you can be a part of the graphic designing team. You can be a copywriter. That's another very important field which is also a creative field. It's not exactly considered creative because you don't see people drawing and doing stuff like that, but that is another area in advertising. Then obviously there is filmmaking which now has really like come into its own element, because there is so much of audio visual content being shared, obviously because of with the smartphone coming in, and basically there are more medium for people to actually put all this stuff across on the internet. So naturally advertising was something I felt that I'll be able to get an understanding a lot, and out of which illustration was there, and illustration always had been my focus because Ever since I was a child, I always wanted to make drawings and characters and these things. So that was always clear in my mind. But it's not like, immediately you can just start doing something without really understanding what is going to go on when you take up that certain profession. So what Anand said right now is extremely important. You have to sort of spend that much time in the industry, or somewhere in the industry which is very close knit or related to what you want to do, or what you can do. So that is the basic thing. It is very important to understand the industry first, and then you're able to pick out exactly, this is what I enjoy doing the most, and I think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I think that is very important.
Thanks, thanks. So another question from Hirani. So मैं उसका last part ले रहा हूँ क्योंकि I think first part जो है उस question का we already addressed that. How do you get the contacts or job as a freelance? See, my observation as an industry person, now I am in that role. Okay, so as an industry person, I just want to say कि increase your network राइट फ्रॉम स्टूडेंट लेवल कि अलग अलग एग्जीबिशंस में जाओ डिस्कशंस करो प्रोफेशनल्स एंड प्रोफेशनल्स इजीली अप्रोचेबल रहते हैं इट्स नॉट दैट कि उनको कुछ अलग रहता है ऑफकोर्स दे आर बिजी बट थोड़ा सा अगर आपका इंटरेस्ट दिखेगा कि यार दिस स्टूडेंट इज क्वाइट कीन टू अंडरस्टैंड डेफिनेटली फ्रॉम उनकी तरफ से वो हेल्प करते हैं दिस इज माय पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस मेरे बहुत सारे बिजनेस ओरिएंटेड फ्रेंड्स है कि जो इसी सेम एनिमेशन इलस्ट्रेशन इसमें है एंड दे आर ओपन टू हेल्प यू ऑफ कोर्स कंसीडरिंग देयर टाइम ये बट दे आर ओपन टू हेल्प यू सो यू बट ओनली थिंग आपको वहां पे जाना पड़ेगा वो आपकी तरफ नहीं आएंगे so you get and nowadays students are so lucky there are n number of social media platforms LinkedIn Facebook Instagram so from there you can easily get connected with industry professionals so
Mm-hmm.
you have to build your network and present your work sir I did this I did that and automatically industry पर्सन्स को प्रोफेशनल्स हैं उनको नए टैलेंट की जरूरत होती ही है अगर आपका काम उनके दिमाग में बैठ गया तो दे विल डेफिनेटली कम बैक टू सेम थिंग हैपेंड विद मी जब मैं कॉलेज में था सो आई जस्ट इट्स ये मेरा बड़प्पन में इससे नहीं कहना चाहता बट दिस इज द फैक्ट कि मैंने लास्ट के 3 साल कभी भी पेपर एंड पेंसिल छोड़ा नहीं ओके सो what happened अभी या फिर when I was left my job and started my own company so at that time मुझे struggle नहीं करना पड़ा to hunt a job or means किसी असाइनमेंट्स के लिए क्योंकि का काम कैसा है ये ऑलरेडी मेरे जो आजू बाजू के स्टूडेंट्स थे उनको मालूम था एंड सेम टाइम वो दूसरे इंडस्ट्री में स्प्रेड हो चुके थे एंड सेम टाइम मैंने कनेक्शन मेंटेन रखा था उनसे सो ऑटोमेटिकली उनकी तरफ से इंक्वायरी आना शुरू हो गया अच्छा आनंद तूने खुद का स्टार्ट किया था ओके आई हैव दैट जॉब सो दिस इज हाउ इट वर्क्स लोगों को आपका काम याद रहता है इंडस्ट्री प्रोफेशनल्स को आपका काम याद रहता है सो आपका काम अच्छा है तो दे विल कम बैक टू दैट थिंग फॉर श्योर Okay. Moving next, we provide internship for student. Yes, it's again completely depend on how your work and your attitude. बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट को बहुत सारा अलग इमेजिनरी रहता है कुछ फैंसी रहेगा कुछ ग्लैमरस रहेगा इट्स अ वेरी फील्ड्स है ये भी आपको स्ट्रगल करना पड़ेगा इट्स नॉट दैट कि आप कौन से भी डिजाइनिंग सेक्टर में जाओ ये मैं सबकी बात कर रहा हूँ आप फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में जाओ आप एडवर्टाइजिंग एजेंसी में जाओ आप इलस्ट्रेशन में जाओ ड्राइंग एंड पेंटिंग वॉट एवर आपको स्ट्रगल करना होगा इट्स नॉट दैट कि आपको गए एंड एट अ फर्स्ट जॉब आपको बहुत बड़ा अच्छा पैकेज मिल गया 20-30 thousand पर मंथ की फर्स्ट जॉब में ही अगर मिला तो इट्स गुड थिंग बट इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट another question what are the different sector of designing so designing point of view say product designing so many things are there product designing is there animation is there print media designing is there, fashion designing is there. So बहुत सारे स्ट्रीम है. डेफिनेटली थोड़ा सा गूगल पे सर्च करोगे तो आपको मिल जाएगा. So but yeah, and there are opportunities for that also. Okay. I want to design after 12. आफ्टर 12th डेफिनेटली. सो मेरा ये सजेशन रहेगा कि आफ्टर 12th के बाद रिसर्च करने के बजाय स्टार्ट योर रिसर्च आफ्टर 10th ओनली. ओके. एंड यू नीड टू, एज आई मेंशन कि डू एप्टीट्यूड टेस्ट एंड वो सारी रिसर्च करके आपको क्विकली आसान हो जाएगा. Hmm. So do that thing. That will be much easier. And as I mentioned कि थोड़े से इंडस्ट्री प्रोफेशनल्स के साथ भी आप लोगों ने इंटरेक्ट किया. मीन्स पेरेंट्स को भी मेरा ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि डायरेक्ट इंस्टीट्यूट से आप पूछ सकते हो. दैट थिंग इज फॉर श्योर. बट अगर आपको कुछ बैकग्राउंड नहीं है इस फील्ड का तो हैव अ वर्ड विद इंडस्ट्री प्रोफेशनल्स. वो ओपन अप रहते हैं. ओनली थिंग आपको वहाँ पे जाना पड़ेगा एंड दे कैन गाइड यू. बहुत सारे एंड एजुकेशंस जो इंस्टीट्यूशंस है. ओके. सो अमर जी का कुछ तो क्वेश्चन है, विच इंस्टीट्यूट डू यू रिकमेंड आफ्टर 10th एंड 12th. See, there are n number of institutions, good institutions. Okay. लेकिन इसमें दो चीजें हैं. फर्स्ट थिंग इज सर्टिफिकेशन. सो प्राइवेट सर्टिफिकेशन आपको चाहिए या फिर गवर्नमेंट का सर्टिफिकेशन चाहिए, दैट इज वन कैटेगरी. प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस पे और गवर्नमेंट सर्टिफिकेशन देने वाले भी इंस्टीट्यूशंस है. अनदर पार्ट इज योर फाइनेंस. फाइनेंस मीन्स फीस, पर ईयर फीस. सो मैं एनिमेशन इंस्टीट्यूट में मास्टर क्लासेस के लिए जाता हूँ. सो रूबिका करके एक इंस्टीट्यूट है कि जो फ्रांस बेस्ड यूनिवर्सिटी है उनकी एनिमेशन की, कि जहाँ पे उनकी फीस जो है वो 9 लाख पर ईयर है. ओके. एंड मैं ऐसे इंस्टीट्यूट्स में भी मुझे इनवाइट किया गया है जहाँ पे पर ईयर की फीस 75,000 है. सो देर इज नो मैच एट ऑल. ठीक है. ओनली थिंग, सो वो पार्ट आपको ही देखना पड़ेगा ऑब्वियसली. बट सर्टिफिकेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से अगर आप सर्टिफिकेशन के लिए बहुत कीन हो एंड आपको अब्रॉड में जाने का प्लान है या फिर इट्स योर ड्रीम कि नहीं मुझे अब्रॉड में जॉब करना है या फिर वहाँ पे आगे मुझे सेटल होना है, सो फॉर दैट यू रिक्वायर अ सर्टिफिकेट. बट अगर आप इंडिया में ही रहना चाहते हो या फिर वैसे कुछ प्लान नहीं है तो इंडिया में आपको क्रिएटिव इंडस्ट्री में सर्टिफिकेशन कोई भी नहीं पूछेगा. मैं 2002 में पास आउट हुआ था. अभी तक मैंने वो जो उस टाइम फाइल में रखा है वो अभी भी निकाला नहीं है. सेम थिंग विद मिहिर आल्सो. हम लोगों का काम ही बोलता है. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ आवर वर्क ओनली वी आर वर्किंग ऑन इंटरनेशनल प्रोजेक्ट्स आल्सो. सो for documentation sake of the documentation you need a certification. As I mentioned, आपको abroad में job भी करने के लिए जाना है, so you need that certification. And जो Indian कॉलेजेस की मैं बात करूंगा कि अगर आपको कॉलेजेस सिलेक्ट करने हैं तो डू विजिट. ब्लाइंडली ऐसे ही इंटरनेट पे देख के ऐसा मत करो. वहाँ पे फैकल्टीज कौन है वो देखो. एंड थर्ड इम्पोर्टेंट मोस्ट पार्ट, यूजीसी का एक साइट है. यूजीसी अगर आपको मालूम नहीं है तो यूजीसी इज अ गवर्नमेंट, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट बॉडी की जो स्पेशली कॉलेजेस के लिए बनाई गई है. उसके अंदर ये सारे सेगमेंट आते हैं, कॉमर्स, आर्ट, साइंस, फाइन आर्ट, डिजाइनिंग एंड नंबर ऑफ थिंग्स. सो सारी यूनिवर्सिटीज यूजीसी के अंडर आती है. ठीक है. सो यू विल गेट, आप अगर किसी स्पेसिफिक कॉलेज के बारे में देख रहे हो तो वहां पे सर्च करो. यूजीसी का साइट एंड दे हैव दैट फैसिलिटी की ये XYZ कॉलेज हमारे यहाँ से अथोराइज लिस्टेड है क्या. बिकॉज नाउ डेज व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, टू बी वेरी फ्रैंक, बहुत बड़े एड्स होते हैं. वो होते हैं कहीं से अब्रॉड की यूनिवर्सिटीज का भी हम फ्रांस के यूनिवर्सिटी का कोर्स यहाँ पे रन करते हैं. दैट काइंड ऑफ एडवर्टाइजिंग यू विल गेट. एंड इन 2 years 3 years माइट बी फ्रॉड निकलती है और कुछ ऐसे भी होते हैं. सो फॉर पेरेंट्स दिस इज माय हम्बल रिक्वेस्ट कि डू सम रिसर्च ऑन दैट फ्रंट ऑल्सो. That is the easy way to do that, and nowadays it's quite easy because of internet. So yeah, next question is, I want to learn graphic designing, so how can I make a career in it? Yes, Mir, I think you are the right person to answer this.
Actually, see, the thing is that, one thing that I observed in a few of these questions is that uh, for most people, designing as a field, or, what can you call it, as a profession, it seems very interesting. They want to do something related to that. But I think, what they also need to figure out is that, what about designing is what about design really excites them, because like, even in the earlier discussion that we had, and like how even Anand pointed out, that when you say design, there are like thousands of things that you can do with it. There is graphic design, there is which is strictly, all related to text and how you want to use images, and it goes more closer to, advertising and these things. And then again, there is character design, which is, it has got absolutely nothing to do with graphic design. So your sense of typography or text, or these other things might not even be useful over there, because something like character design might be, it'll be very different. Since it is very different, it will be used in areas where, there is animation, where there is storytelling and these things. So I think, if you're saying that, you like graphic design, uh, you need to, understand that, it is, even graphic design, it is made up of these few things, as in, there is typography, then, there is the use of proper imagery, how you're going to compose, and how the whole design is going to look in the end. So if you love graphic design, see, making a career out of it is not going to be a problem, because one thing, that is really nice over here is that, that you want to make a career in graphic design. When you
Yeah.
don't know that, you want, what type of designing, I should take up, then, you're just sort of, shooting in the dark. As in, you have a liking for designing, I want to do something creative, that is what is going on in your head, but you don't know exactly what, so you don't know where to go. So if you're saying that, graphic designing is something that you want to learn, excellent. I'm really happy that you know what you want to really, do. So if you know that, then accordingly you can start looking for places which will teach you the best graphic design, the experts that you need to get in touch with. And, automatically, when these all these things you start doing sequentially, then, making a career in graphic designing is not really, a big challenge, because everything that you've done earlier on is automatically leading you up to doing it professionally. So
True, true. So, next question is, sir, I am from Vishwakarma. Okay, practice most. Okay, so Akshita, so you are into animation, or animation के student हो आप तो drawing and drawing. So to be very frank, as I mentioned कि software आ गए तो animation आ गया. No, it's not like that. So for animation, definitely drawing, अगर आप गेमिंग एनिमेशन 2D 3D एनिमेशन के बारे में बात कर रहे हो तो definitely yes. In terms of learning also, वहाँ पे भी आपको ड्राइंग ही आपको सपोर्ट करेगा बिकॉज माय view on this software, of course software and technology both are important equally 50-50% मैं कहूँगा क्योंकि क्रिएटिविटी एग्जीक्यूट करने के लिए टेक्नोलॉजी चाहिए एंड टेक्नोलॉजी का यूज करने के लिए क्रिएटिविटी चाहिए सो बोथ नाउडेज इट्स हैंड इन हैंड जाने वाली चीजें हैं बट जो मेन कोर मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि इट्स अ ड्राइंग ड्राइंग की वजह से आपके बहुत सारे अंडरस्टैंडिंग अच्छी तरीके से डेवलप हो जाते हैं एंड टू देन टू क्रैक अ सॉफ्टवेयर टू अंडरस्टैंड द सॉफ्टवेयर इट नॉट अ बिग डील ऑफ कोर्स यू नीड टू स्पेंड सम टाइम ऑन इट बट वो इतना बड़ा चैलेंज नहीं होता सो दैट इज द थिंग सो फोकस ऑन योर ड्राइंग प्रैक्टिस एंड उसके बाद आगे आप बहुत अच्छी तरीके से बढ़ सकते हो ठीक है another thing Amar mentioned, I'm interested in both graphic designing and VFX. What is the recommendation from you? Okay, for future. See, as a industry, दोनों industry में फ्यूचर अच्छा है, ठीक है। ओनली थिंग, ये सोचना अलग गलत है कि कौन से फील्ड में, ऑफकोर्स वो सेकेंडरी सोच होनी चाहिए कि अच्छा ये इंडस्ट्री लॉन्ग टर्म जाने वाली है, सो इसके लिए मैं दौड़ूंगा, ठीक है। डोंट डू दैट। पहले तुम्हारा लाइकिंग कहाँ पे है वो तुम्हें देखना चाहिए क्या। अच्छा, तुम टेक्निकली, वीएफएक्स इज अ लिटिल बिट टेक्निकल फील्ड, ओके, एंड ग्राफिक डिजाइनिंग इज लिटिल बिट क्रिएटिव फील्ड, ओके। परसेंटेज वाइज दोनों अलग अलग है। सो तुम्हारा अप्रोच कहाँ पे है, तुम्हें टेक्नोलॉजी कहाँ पे अच्छी लग रही है क्या, या फिर क्रिएटिविटी ज्यादा अच्छी लग रही है, वो पहले डिसाइड करो। लाइक अगेन मैं मेरा एग्जांपल देना चाहूंगा कि मैं टेक्नोलॉजी में मैं ज्यादा, थ्री डी, स्पेशली थ्री डी में मैंने ज्यादा कुछ एक्सप्लोर किया नहीं, थोड़ा सा शुरुआत में किया, बट आई फाउंड इट्स वेरी टेक्निकल थिंग एंड मुझे वो उतना इंटरेस्टिंग नहीं लगा, सो आई अगेन कंप्लीटली फोकस्ड ऑन टू डी एंड डिजाइनिंग पार्ट, दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग। सो मैंने खुद के लिए, मैंने मेरा टाइम दिया खुद का लाइकिंग एक्सप्लोर करने के लिए, एंड इट्स अ प्रोसेस। First you have to enter that thing, first after that you have to learn that thing, after that you will get to know कि अच्छा ओके इसमें ये होता है, इसमें ये होता है, एंड मेरा इंटरेस्ट कहाँ पे है, एंड देन उसके आगे जाओ। एंड बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस मुझे इस तरीके के आते हैं स्टूडेंट से कि सर मैं पोर्टफोलियो के लिए क्या बनाऊं, स्पेशली फॉर वीएफएक्स स्टूडेंट्स, कि सर मैं रोटोस्कोपी का शोरील बनाऊं या थ्री डी मॉडलिंग का बनाऊं। सो नो, डोंट डू दैट। आपका जो कोर है ना, उसमें आप फोकस करके आगे बढ़ो, तब भी वो अच्छी तरीके से डेवलप हो सकता है। अदरवाइज आप, ये ट्रेंड हमेशा चेंज हो रहा है, एंड वो अब स्पीड ज्यादा बढ़ गई आफ्टर 2 3 इयर्स, 2 3 इयर्स से स्पीड चेंज होने लगा है इंडस्ट्री का। तो इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट कि हाँ अभी मैंने रोटोस्कोपी पे काम किया एंड देन 3 साल के बाद कुछ अलग ही निकल के आया। सो दैट इज द थिंग, दैट इज माय सजेशन। आई होप आई एम क्लियर टू योर आंसर। So yeah, Mihir, we are done with questions जो अभी existing questions थे। So अगर किसी को और कुछ पूछना है, because now it's 11:41, uh, if sir
Hi,
have
sir.
some
Good
time,
morning.
we can continue. Yes, please go ahead.
It's Santoshi here. Okay. I had a few
Yes.
list of questions. So my first question was how to judge an illustration of any part. Like if we are going for book illustrations, there are many book illustrations which actually are good, but not relevant. Or else, if we think about, I recently had a search, I had a question, some best illustrators. So
Mm-hmm.
right, so they were best actually said, but what I found is I didn't like that much. Of course, first thing, how to judge the illustration that this is good or this is bad, or how to go with it, sir.
True, true. See, so the thing is that there are a few things which are involved with this. What I feel is that, see, if you're trying to judge an illustration without any context, then it is a totally personal liking which comes into play. So it might be
Yeah.
something like there is a certain style which you sort of don't enjoy much, or you're more into seeing very realistically drawn, or they should have a lot of effects and a lot of detailing. So if you're a person who likes that kind of a thing, you'll always like that. And you might not like something which is just maybe done like a scribble or something like that. So when you're judging an illustration or even a painting or any art form for that matter, look at it as an art form without any context.
Mm.
Then I think it is totally based on your personal liking. However, if you're judging something based on what it was made for, like now if there is a book that you come across and you start reading it, and then there are these few illustrations coming in. So what you need to do is that there are a few things that you need to figure out. One thing is that while you're reading the story, you should see how much the illustration is really helping the story come across better. Is it
Mm-hmm.
helping your imagination, or you're reading a few lines from the book and then you're imagining them in a different way, and what the illustrator has made is maybe it is just very basic. So
Okay.
you have to compare it with how well it was written. Now when I make illustrations for books, one thing that I always make it a point to sort of follow is that, see, when you're illustrating for a book, the story is always going to be the main part which is going to reach the audience.
Yeah.
You should never try to sort of overpower the author, or you should never try to overpower the writing. What you should do is, as an illustrator, you should be very sincere to what that person has written. So there might be paragraphs, for example, like if you're reading a story which is a fantasy story, and there might
Mm.
be a paragraph where a certain type of a character is described. Let's say, for example, maybe there's a fairy which is described. So there is a description given by the author, and then you might come across the illustration made based on the description. So the illustration, while making the illustration, the illustrator always has to see that somewhere it has to be hand in hand with what the author has written. I mean, you can always express it in a beautiful way, but if the author has not written about a few things, you can't just keep going on adding these things based on your imagination. So even as
Okay.
a viewer, for you it is very important to always see the context and judge it accordingly, as in what is written and what is depicted. So that is one very important thing. Second thing, how you can really figure out whether an illustration is good or bad is that, uh, there are, you must have observed, there are many styles in which an illustration can come across. Like there is something which is for kids, where the drawing of the anatomy of a human figure might not be taken that much into consideration, because uh, if it's meant for small kids, kids are
Mm.
not always going to constantly say ki Arey, nahi, the head of this character is so big and feet are so small, or something like that. That is not going to happen. They're just going to look at the characters, and they'll just interpret the story. So when you're illustrating or judging the illustrations from a book, you might not come across very nicely drawn illustrations every time, but they serve the purpose. So
Okay.
a style is also very important. If the story is something which is very serious, and the illustration, the tonality or the style of the illustration which has been picked by the author and the illustrator or the publisher or whatever, whoever has created the book, if they've
Mm-hmm.
gone for a very realistic approach, and there are a lot of human figures, there is a lot of environment seen in the illustration, there is a lot of perspective, as in there are houses, buildings, cars, there are characters, there are human figures. So if it falls into a genre which is like a realistically drawn image, then it is very easy for you to judge, because then you're also looking at the anatomy of these characters, whether the character is proportionate, whether it is nicely drawn, whether the hands are properly drawn, or the
Yeah.
face has been made very nicely but the hands have been screwed up. So actually the thing is that a style is very important. If a certain illustration or the way it is drawn fits in that certain style, and if the same style is carried on in a very consistent manner throughout the book or throughout the advertising campaign or whatever, then it can be called as a a good illustration. So that is how you can judge it. And again, when it comes to something which is realistic, you will need to understand the human figure, understand perspective, understand environment a lot, so that you are able to tell कि अरे ये बहुत गलत ड्रॉ किया, मतलब ये नहीं है, मतलब अच्छा नहीं मुझे लग रहा है. No, I can see there are a few mistakes, few big mistakes with the perspective. So automatically that is how you can judge the whole illustration. And
Okay.
another thing that I'll just quickly point out is that, like how you mentioned, you went across or you go across a lot of people on social media who are illustrators, who do a lot of work and who have done a lot of work, and there are certain illustrations which you don't like, and then you will always still see that these people have like 40,000 followers and 80,000 followers and all that. So somewhere you also need to realize that it's not always, any illustration is not always going to be judged by someone who understands illustration or someone who understands anatomy. It is more or less always going to be perceived by masses as well. So there are always going to be a lot of people who don't care about the anatomy or these things. They just look at the illustration, अरे wow, क्या amazing किया है यहाँ पे. So,
Yes.
you're always going to come across many illustrations like that. And if you want to judge, or you want to be sure, or you want to develop, sort of a reference profile where these are the people who I really want to follow, जिनका काम बहुत अच्छा है और ये मुझे अच्छा लगता है. So, like I said, one first thing was to understand the context of the illustration. अगर कॉन्टेक्स्ट कुछ नहीं है, इफ इट्स जस्ट मेड लाइक पर्सनल वर्क के जैसे, अगर एक ही इलस्ट्रेशन जस्ट ऐसे ही मन से किया है, तो देन ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड कि उसका एनाटॉमी कितना अच्छा हुआ है, हाउ इट वर्क्स इन टोटलिटी ऑफ द होल इलस्ट्रेशन. तो
Okay.
उसके लिए आपका ऑब्जर्वेशन, आपके ड्राइंग स्किल्स और ये सब चीज़ें, आपका अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द मीडियम विल ऑल्सो बी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. तो आप मतलब यू नीड टू ऑल्सो डेवलप योर सेल्फ. You need to see a lot of illustrations, and it is very sad that you will come across very bad illustrations as well. Because
Yeah.
कुछ कर भी नहीं सकते. But then when you see bad illustrations, you will actually, as time goes by, you will also figure out कि अच्छे वाले कौन से. So
Yeah.
you whatever you're doing is good. मतलब आप देखते जाओ, see as much what you can, and at the same time आप you try to figure out कि इसमें से क्या अच्छा लगा, इसमें से क्या नहीं लगा, and try to strengthen your skills as well. So that is one way of going about judging any illustration or any art form. Or it is the same with music, dance, or whatever. So there is personal liking, but there's also these technical things which you feel कि ये सही किए हैं एकदम, ये this is so nice, and that sort of a thing. So it's, in short, not in short actually, but the things that.
Okay. The second question which I had was, as you said earlier, that there are few things like for children's illustration, that is book illustrations, and some advertising illustrations based for advertising and things. What I observed in your illustrations was, whenever we try to make up with kids, it was all related to how they get familiar to the characters. But when we look for advertising sort of illustrations, I found out a typical, what do you say, family like, that this is a special thing of my illustration when I
Correct.
am doing it for advertising part, right? So how to develop that, or how to identify that this is the basic thing which I should involve in my illustration when I'm doing for advertising, and how to develop that part.
Cool, cool. Like this question is very important. What I feel is that in short, also what you're asking is that how do I figure out what my style of work is? Is that also
Yeah.
what you're asking? Yeah. So
Yes, that's it.
yeah. So the thing is that if you honestly, if I'm honestly to tell you, I really don't know exactly what out of all the illustrations that I've done is, I can't really pinpoint what my style is. And yet,
Okay.
surprisingly, whatever people that I come across, they somehow, always tell me कि अरे ये मीर का काम लगता है. Now, honestly, I don't know what they find in the illustrations, which is, something which I do consistently in all of them. But
Mm.
ऐसे, so ऐसे है कि स्टाइल की ये बात है when it comes to illustrating for advertising. I think like earlier when I said I always wanted to be very versatile with my approach. So I think that it's a process, and you need to sort of make a lot of drawings, you need to make a lot of experiments, you need to sort of try many things together, and that is how you will slowly start figuring out what you're enjoying doing the most, and also what you really love doing, and what you can do very nicely, or something which you can do differently than any other illustrator. So if you are asking about how you can develop your style, one thing would be that you need to experiment a lot, and that can come when you're very open about which style really I want to take up later on. So you can really like go across a many many different projects, and you can figure out कि इसका style अलग है, उसका style अलग है, and just experiment with those. So if you want to be an illustrator, it is very important to अंडरस्टैंड कि कौन से स्टाइल में क्या क्या किया है, कैसे कैसे किया है, तो ऑटोमेटिकली आपके स्टाइल का थोड़ा थोड़ा इट विल स्टार्ट रिवीलिंग टू यू ऑन इट्स ओन मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम, so you don't have to really struggle to find that style. So
Okay.
for now, what I'd suggest is that you can really start experimenting with many different styles. One simple exercise, what you can do is that maybe you can take a subject and make multiple illustrations of the same. If it's like a scene from a storybook or something like that, try to visualize it in different ways, in different styles, and how you can show it differently each time. सो उससे
Okay.
थोड़ा सा आपको भी अंदाजा आ जाएगा कि आपको सबसे ज़्यादा इफेक्टिवली क्या आप चीज़ दिखा सकते हैं, एंड व्हाट इज़ मोर कंफर्टेबल टू यू, एंड एट द सेम टाइम व्हाट इज़ द मोस्ट एंजॉयबल टू यू.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Thanks, Mir, and thanks, Santoshi, to raise this nice question. There is one more question, sir. Can you tell something about UX UI? So I'm not the UX UI person. So Mir,
नीदर एम आई.
सॉरी सचिन, हम लोगों को उतना ज्यादा नॉलेज नहीं है. सॉरी, सो सॉरी अबाउट. But of course, if you want some industry professionals from UX UI, I have few friends who work in UX UI from last 5-6 years. So आप मुझे personally WhatsApp करके contact me. I will definitely help you to get connected with those guys. So they are the right person to guide you. Unnecessary हम गलत तरीके से आंसर्स नहीं देना चाहते. थैंक्स फॉर दिस पार्टिसिपेशन. आप लोगों ने इतने अच्छी तरीके से पेशेंसली हम लोगों को सुना, एंड वी ट्राई टू give you the best whichever we have. Another small thing, definitely we are planning for some student focus oriented stuff, कि जो like training या फिर career consultation kind of thing, या फिर mentoring kind of thing. So definitely, if you are interested to hear something about that, just ping me. To sum up, thing ki for illustration, do practice, 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 drawing practice, and your right attitude, right, Mir?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is great that there are many people who want to take up this field. It is very encouraging. It is good. Competition is always healthy. It is just that one thing that I'll repeat based on all of the questions that came here. I think that rather than looking at this field for its glamour, which you don't know whether it is actually there or not, because as of now you're not a part of the field. Once you're there, then you will know what are all the nice things about the field, what is the flip side and all that. So as of now, I'd suggest that you really need to tap into what you love, and to figure out what you love, you're going to have to do a lot of things first. So I think one point was very crucial which Anand mentioned, is that maybe after 10th, don't immediately jump into something. Take another couple of years, finish higher education somewhere, and till then, just focus on these things that you think you love, so that you'll be able to figure out what you exactly want to do. Don't just jump into it straight away. So that is one thing that I would like to point out. And the other thing is what again Anand said, you need to actually work a lot, as in even if it's a personal work, even if you're not in even in an art college or in an institute yet, but if you know that you want to do something in this field, you need to really start doing it right now. There are so many portals online where you can put up your work, you can actually get feedback from people. So use it to your advantage, and practice a lot, make a lot of drawings, fail as many times as you want, experiment as many times as you want, because if you don't do that, you will never figure out what you're good at and what you're really bad at. And you don't want to make a or start a career in something which or which you think is very glamorous, but you're not at all good in it. rather than that, you, if you're able to point out, you really figure out that this is something out of all these 10 things that I really am enjoying right now to do, and also which I it's very
It's
interesting and
12 o'clock.
creative for me. Then that is, then it will be easier for you to really pick what side you want to take. So I think that should do it.
Great, great, great. Thanks, Neil. Thanks. So, yeah, so on behalf of me also, let me
Yes,
conclude.
thank you so
Okay.
much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, sir. I
Yes.
have question. Me, sir.
Uh-huh.
To in making illustration, are you using Wacom or what?
Yeah, so the thing is that, for making any illustrations, there could be a couple of things involved. So I do use a Wacom pen tablet, and that is when it comes to the finalization part of any illustration. As in, what I do is earlier for the pre-production, as in when I'm in the early stages, I might even sketch in a sketchbook. I might, actually draw on art papers and things like that. But when it comes closer towards the finalization, when I want to give the final output, yes, I do use a vacuum pen tablet.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Anand sir. Thank you, me, sir.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Great, guys. So, yeah, so that is the end of this session. Stay tuned. मैं आप लोगों को नए नए टॉपिक्स लेके आता रहूँगा with new industry persons. Thanks for joining. Hmm? चलो. Yeah, all the best.
If you haven't subscribed yet, don't wait any longer. Subscribe now.